Hey, my name is Ben. This is the Pre-Chiro podcast, and today we are broadcasting out to Venice, Italy with Amy, a fellow chiropractor. Amy, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to talk with prospective students that are considering this path of becoming a chiropractor and are just looking to gain some insight from people who have been there before and are still doing it today. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Can you get us started by just sharing a little bit about what your background was before you went to chiropractic school, what you were doing, and how you discovered chiropractic and really what attracted you to this path?
It's kind of a funny story, and I think I do think it might make me sound a little wackier than I like to think that I am, but it's okay. I'm also embracing my wackiness along with my technological wizardry. So I became a massage therapist my first summer after college started. So I was 20 years old and I took a 6 weekend, 100-hour massage class and I loved it. And I had never had a massage before that. I didn't really know anything about massage, and this was a fairly long time ago. I'll be frank; it was a long time ago, and massage still wasn't really a household word.
Mhm.
And my family was super supportive because they thought that that meant they would be getting lots of massages, so they were excited about that. And our teacher, the way she ran the program was you did this 100 hours and then you gave her a massage. And after or during the massage, she said, I'm going to interrupt you a bunch because I want to make sure that when I let you loose on the world, you're not going to embarrass the school and you're not going to embarrass yourself and you're not going to hurt anybody. And you're not, it's, so she had these very rigid things. And she said, so don't be upset when I stop you a bunch. And so I started the massage and she was pretty quiet and I finished the massage and she really hadn't said anything. And when she got up, she said, now you understand that you need to go do 100 hours of free massage, right? And I said, I do. She said, then you need to document them. People need to sign. I said, yep, I'm good. I'm on it. And she said, so just repeat back to me, you understand that you cannot get paid for the massages. And I said, yeah, I have to do 100 hours of free massage. And she said, okay, we're clear. And I said, yes. And she said, okay, next I'm going to tell you this, and I'm not going to tell anyone else this. Don't do any free massage. And I was like, what? And she said, you are gifted and you really, like, you can't charge for it, but nobody should get a free massage from you ever. And so that was how I started out my career of touching people. And it was a wonderful entree for me to be able to realize how profound the connection that you can have with people through their body and in a really loving, tender, nourishing format. And so where a lot of my college friends were, working in bars over the weekend to make some extra cash, I was doing massage and it was a great way to make just enough, and maybe more than the people I knew that were scooping ice cream. But it was also it was cool because for me it was a way that I also found it very relaxing to be in the process of giving a massage. And so I did that for a few years and found myself in some really wonderful circumstances in these amazing homes in Santa Barbara. I actually gave a massage to the person that owned Oprah's house before Oprah did. It's a spectacular dig. And so I learned a lot of really, really powerful pieces from that. One was to charge what you're worth. Another was to trust your hands. And another was a lot of people said, oh, Santa Barbara, God, everyone's a massage therapist in Santa Barbara. Well, I had grown up in Santa Barbara and I didn't know anyone who was a massage therapist. I just didn't know anyone that was in that world. And so they said, well, you're probably going to have to charge just like $10 an hour or something because there's so many of you. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that because I know I'm good. And the reason I knew I was good was because first my teacher told me, but then all the clients. And so what was lovely was the way it organically developed, because just like in chiropractic, when somebody finds a massage therapist that they like to tell everybody, or it's like, finding a spinning teacher that you like or whatever. It's that person who you are proud and excited to give out their card. And so I was one of the numbers that traveled around in these pretty upper echelon circles, and that was fantastic. And I went back to college and I was getting ready to graduate, and I was giving a friend of mine a massage. And afterwards, I was like, or actually, it was in the middle. I just had this sense of like, this, Amy Burke, is what you are supposed to be doing. You are supposed to be working with your hands. And I was graduating from college. I really had no idea what my next step was. I thought that I would maybe become a professor of something. And my TA at the time, who was a history professor, said, I can probably get you in where I'm going next. And, I was like, okay, well, I just never, it doesn't really sing to me. But I also wasn't interested in just hanging out. So I was really not clear on what my next step was. And then all of a sudden it was just like, whoosh, you will use your hands. And so I thought, okay. And then my friend got off the table and she said, that was awesome. You must be exhausted. And I said, no, actually, I feel great because I just figured out what I'm going to do for my life. And she said, whoa, what happened? And I said, I have these hands. Like I've got the hands. I got to use the hands. Mm-hmm. So from there, I went to, this is a long answer to your question. Yeah. I went to look at a variety of different schools. So I went to acupuncture school. I looked at the brochures for osteopathic school, and I looked at brochures for homeopathy, and I toyed with going to medical school. And so my experience was, I got a whole bunch of brochures for chiropractic colleges. So my first trip, I think, was to acupuncture school, and it was in San Francisco. And these students were extremely stressed. They were like strung out, stressed. Mm-hmm. And I, here I come in all excited, like I'm a prospective student. What do you do? What are you studying? What are you up to? And they were all like, it's exhausting. I'm fried. I can't do it anymore. And I thought quickly, immediately, oh, no, not for me. That doesn't sound good at all. Mm-hmm. And then I was quite interested in osteopathic school until I found out that, at least on the West Coast of America, I cannot speak to the Midwest. And this was a long time ago. So I'm going off of my experience, which was about 20 years ago. Osteopathic schools had made a choice quite near to that time frame where they were looking towards being more accepted in the medical professions. And so they weren't really teaching the stuff with the hands anymore. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to go to medical school, I'll go to medical school. I don't want to go to osteopathic school hoping to learn osteopathy and then not learn osteopathy. Mm-hmm. So then I started getting a lot of brochures from chiropractic colleges because I had asked for them. And the closest one was Life West because I was graduating from Berkeley. And so I just drove down there one day and I walked onto the campus. I can't even remember if I had an appointment. And this student came up to me in the hallway and said, are you thinking of going to school here? And I said, I am. And he said, well, can I have your address? And I was like, address, phone number. And he said, no, I want to send you something. I want to send you something that changed my life. And I thought, is he going to send me a Bible? Like what's going on here? And he said, no, I'm going to send you the book that turned me into a chiropractor. And anytime I can share this work with anybody, I'm so delighted because chiropractic changed my life. It every morning I wake up and I cannot wait to get out of bed because I am so excited to come to school here. Now, Life West 21, well, this would have been before I started school. So it was in 1995. Life West was in a elementary school. We basically still had the desks of the elementary school. It was not a place that you would imagine somebody would be really excited to come out of bed to go to this school. Like, it was not an impressive campus by any means. And his enthusiasm was so contagious and so precious. Mm-hmm. And I just had this that was very similar to the voice who was like, your hands, use your hands, was like, oh, you're going to go to school here. This is what's happening. Mm-hmm. And so that's that. So I figured out what I needed to do to go to chiropractic college without ever having met a chiropractor or been to a chiropractic office or understood, frankly, anything about chiropractic. I mean, I got the sense that it was an alternative healthcare system that made people excited to be there. And that's what really gave me the hook, is because I didn't want to go where people weren't excited to be. That didn't inspire me. And so I wanted to be around people who are happy to be there. And this guy was like so happy. It was adorable.
Mm-hmm. And if you're a prospective student, some of the common threads that you're picking up on this story that Amy just shared was her intuition was what was guiding her, her recognition and her gifts and her skills in her hands, and just an open-mindedness to, asking the question, which is the best path for me? You went to different directions and we're really just asking the same question, is this the way that I should go?
Sure.
And I encourage any prospective student to do that. This podcast is not really about inspiring you to become a chiropractor only. It's also about helping you recognize what it took for somebody to decide, this is why I want to become a chiropractor. And if that doesn't resonate with you, by all means, there's plenty of options out there. But can you kind of keep going with this story into chiropractic school now? So you've made the decision you were going to go to this school, which is not inspiring from a campus perspective, but the people there, the energy there was very attractive to you. Can you talk a little bit about what that transition was like, and maybe some of the things that you were surprised by when you entered the program, and some of the biggest challenges that you had when you entered chiropractic school?
College was long for me because I transferred a couple times because I couldn't find people that were excited to be where they were. So I had to keep transferring schools. And so once I decided with my degree in history and women's studies, so like full on liberal arts, that I wanted to go to chiropractic college, I had to catch up on some of my basic sciences, which I had avoided for a very specific reason. Like, I was not science oriented, or I didn't think that I was. And so I found myself suddenly, after having graduated from Berkeley with a degree in history, having to go back and take a year of physics, a year of chemistry, a year of biochem, and a year of biology, plus psychology. And I feel like there was one other random one there. Yeah, that took me, I want to say a solid 2 years plus summer. So I think it was about 2.5 years. So I think I was 20. Yeah, I know I was 26 when I started chiropractic college. So there were times where I was sitting in a classroom at City College thinking, with people that were, 17, 18, 19. There were some people that had graduated from my high school that were still working on their AA degree. Nothing wrong with that. But I was like, wow, I don't know how I got here. Like, this is so roundabout. I could have just, if I had known earlier, I would have made different decisions. But the thing is, I didn't know earlier. So it was just not very useful to have that conversation for too long. And I ended up meeting my best friend in the whole world, who was doing the same thing I was doing, taking classes for PT school. So we had to take all the same prereqs. And we had an ongoing thing as to who would convince who to switch career. I thought I would win, and she thought she would win, and neither of us won. She's an awesome PT, and I'm an awesome chiro. And so then that took me, it just took a long time, and it was challenging, but again, I was so clear that was what I was supposed to be doing. It was like, okay, well, if this is what I need to do, then this is what's happening. So I started chiropractic college when I was 26. Yep. So I was already like an elderly student at that time compared to some people. But I will also tell you, Ben, I had people in my class that were in their 50s, which, having just turned 50, I think, what would it take right now for me to say, I'm going to go back to chiropractic college? I'm not sure that it could happen. But again, they had like this transformational experience, and that was what they were guided to do for whatever reason, and whether it was they'd been to a chiropractor, their life had been changed, whether they were just looking to do a completely different career. And you mentioned about my hands. For me, it was my hands. There were other people in my class who I feel like had never touched anybody in a professional setting at all. And they graduated as well. We had a little bit of everything. We also had some people that ended up not being able to graduate because the school demands were intense, and the time demands of chiropractic college are extremely intense. So when you asked me what was challenging, by the time I had finished those extra 2 years of school, I had a very busy massage practice where I was making good money. I was working part-time and making what plenty of people made working full-time. I had my weekends off. I had a life.
Yeah.
And when I started chiropractic college, it was kind of like from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then you had to study. And it was shocking because I think in the beginning, we could miss a certain amount of school, but then as I went along in the program, it became more rigid in terms of what we could miss. So it wasn't like you could just wake up in the morning and go, I don't feel like going to class today. You had to be there. And so it was a full-time commitment on every level, and energetically it required total presence. And you had to really dig deep for kind of social skills, because you were dealing with people that came from totally different backgrounds, completely different level of education, to completely different abilities. It wasn't the same as going to a 4-year university where everybody had kind of gone through college prep classes. Even though everybody had taken prerequisites to get there, we were all at really different levels. The teachers, some of them were really excited to be there, some of them not so much. And so it was, in the first few quarters, I would say it was really a big adjustment to just realize, oh my God, this is my life for the next 4 or 5 years and nothing else. So it was school during the week. I worked a lot in the evenings, and I had a study buddy she was our class valedictorian. We would meet like at 10, and I would sit down. She would have been there since 6, and I would say, what do I need to know for tomorrow? And she would catch me up, and she would get the A and I would get a B, and that would be great for both of us. Like, she was very happy, and I was more than perfectly okay with that. And the energetic requirement that it took was pretty profound. And so, like, chiropractic becomes everything. At least it did for me. My weekends were seminars, my everything. The energetic requirement is it's intense. And I definitely did not realize, I suppose I could have guessed it from the intensity of the guy who came up to me in the hallway, that it wasn't just a regular program. But it's not that it put a strain on my family relationship. In some ways it made it stronger than ever, but I wasn't really available. And my ability to converse about things other than chiropractic became very limited for a long time. And you just kind of, my awareness of the outside world became pretty limited because I was just, it's like you're thrown in the deep end of a pool and you either swim or you sink. And I was like, I'm swimming because here I've did 4 years of university, did 2.5 years of prereqs. I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I graduated when I was 29.
Mm-hmm. I think it's amazing that you had to do 2.5 additional years of prerequisites. And in 2020 today, if you have a bachelor's degree, many of the schools will let you in, even if it's in history and women's
Oh,
studies.
wow. That's awesome.
And so you can totally jump over that hurdle there or bypass that hurdle, but it is a science rooted curriculum.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to face the sciences eventually, regardless. And I'm sure those prerequisite classes put you in the right state of mind to really adapt or meet those challenges. Some of the other things that I heard you say is that your life was consumed by chiropractic school when you first entered. That's true to this day, even though
I'm kind of relieved to hear that.
yeah, even though things have changed in 2020, I believe now it's half virtual and half in person. The hands-on portions obviously like in person, and I think a lot of those didactic classes are being taken online nowadays. So
Yeah.
that's changing, and it's interesting to think about how that's going to change the experience for a student today.
For sure.
I also want to touch on the fact that you said that you couldn't imagine being 50 and considering this career. When I'm imagining pre-Chiro, I'm thinking of people that are burnt out from the banking career they
Absolutely.
chose,
Yep.
or they're a teacher and it's just not giving them that juice anymore. And they're looking to transition careers. And I think that they're going to want structure. They're going to want something that speaks to them and says, hey, if you're thinking of a career in chiropractic, this is step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is how we can walk you through it. Obviously, it's your own path. Choose your own adventure. But these are some of the constructs that you should be thinking through when becoming a chiropractor before school.
Totally.
Can you speak a little bit about what you're gravitating towards when you're a student, or what you were naturally gravitating towards as a student, and sort of the path that you took to become a chiropractor?
I think because of my massage background, I was really attracted to techniques or approaches in chiropractic that were less what I considered aggressive at the time. I wouldn't use that term now, but that's how it felt to me when I just didn't have any chiropractic awareness. I also I'm laughing because it's funny. It's funny knowing now what I know about myself. It wasn't funny then. I didn't want to hang out with only the weirdos. So, but I was drawn to like SOT or activator or best DNFT. I did a lot of energetic healing seminars while I was in school, and then I mixed it with things like, well, Arnaud Bernier's Masterpiece Training Camp before there was MLS, and we didn't have KTC back then, but I'm not sure. Like, I don't know how I would have felt about KTC back then, but I am so blown away by so now I'll skip forward a little bit. A lot of it. I teach chiropractic students at least once a month, and here in Europe. And I am so blown away by the students, particularly in Europe. Most of them are really young, and their personal maturity level, their willingness to totally engage in the learning process rather than coming into a seminar and being like, yeah, I already know that. What else you got? They are full in the learning process of being a beginner. It's such a beautiful thing to witness. And the skills of the students that are coming out of chiropractic college now versus when I was in college, I feel like are dramatically different. And I don't know, I mean, I feel like I do know. I think it's just the shift in perspective that people like Arnaud Bernier have brought to the profession of just, you are dealing with people's lives. You better be good. It's not scooping ice cream. There's nothing wrong with scooping ice cream. And if you're going to scoop ice cream, do it the best way you can. But if you're going to be a chiropractor, you literally have the ability to turn somebody's life around or on. Mm-hmm. And so do it really, really well. And with a humility, man, when I was in chiropractic college, the speakers that would come in, the ego would just fill the room and kind of suck the air out of everybody who was in the seats. And now I just notice a different level of humanity and humility and connection and heart. And when I used, well, for a long time, I avoided chiropractic seminars because I was like, I can't do another thing with middle-aged white guys telling me from the stage how I'm supposed to run my practice or run my life, or I just can't do it anymore. And so I avoided for so long. And now I love hanging out with chiropractors. I just feel like we as a profession have evolved, and it's a kinder, gentler, easier, more tender place, I feel like. Mm-hmm. So I think that looking at the students that are coming to my seminars now, I feel like chiropractic college must be a pretty different experience. I hear what you're saying about it being fully encompassing, and I get that from the students still, but there seems to be a lot more joy in the room when they're there, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah.
We were kind of wankers.
Yeah, well, the students today are a little bit more awake to the reality that you become a chiropractor on the weekends in seminars like the ones you're offering.
Yeah.
And some of the values that are being continually propagated through that KTC, through the different school clubs that have sprouted up in the name of let's practice, let's train, let's just focus on being a little bit better version of ourselves.
I feel like that right there is the distinction. When I was in school, it was like, let's practice. And it was like, it was really, let's practice. Can I practice on you? And now this concept of training and just the laser focus and we're not messing around. Like it's too important. And to be honest, at least in the States, it's a little different here in Europe, but the amount of student loans that you come out of school with, the day you graduate, you better know what you're doing, because you have a really big responsibility in terms of paying back your loans. And it's intense. So you don't really have the luxury of just being like, yeah, well, I'll learn how to adjust later. You need to get out of school with everything, all your ducks in a row. And the good news is that there are resources totally available to help you do that.
Absolutely. And there's ways to shift your consciousness around student loans to look at it as good debt, not bad debt that was necessary for you to do what you love, and ways to really kind of minimize the stress and effects that it has on your consciousness and it has on your life, that you can still live a great life even with student debt. So can you speak to the present day you and where you're at right now? You're in Venice, Italy. You used to practice in New York, and touch on how being a chiropractor allows you to be transportable or portable. Absolutely. And bring yourself to different parts of the world, and why you ended up in Italy.
So, okay. Yep. So when I graduated, I knew that I wanted to move to Italy when I was in chiropractic college. And so it wasn't quite as easy as I had anticipated, but that's okay. Most good things aren't, right? So when I finally got all the paperwork handled, it took me several months and lots of being very persistent and hearing no a whole bunch of times and just not listening to no. I got my visa to move to Italy. And so I practiced in Italy by myself for, I think, 2 years. And I was in a fairly small town that I had met some wonderful people. And it also, in many ways, felt quite oppressive. I was single. Let's see. Well, you can edit this out later if you think you need to. I knew I wasn't going to marry an Italian man. And I was like, I need to go back to my people. There's a saying in Italian that says, wives and cows get from your own town. And so I was like, I don't need to go back to my own town, but I need to go back to people, my people. And so I had a really random opportunity to move from Parma, which is where I was for 2 years, set up a practice there, and moved to Manhattan. And that's where I stayed for, I think it was 8 years. And I met my husband there, and our daughter was born in Manhattan. And my practice was going great, really, really well. I would say I had the number one pregnancy and sort of mom-oriented wellness practice in Manhattan, chiropractic practice. And that happened really organically and really easily. And no, easily is not the right word, but it happened with ease. And when Lily was 3, yeah, we went on vacation to a tiny island south of Sicily. And I remember the ride from the airport down to the town thinking, oh my God, what are we going to do for 2 weeks? Like, this is not, so you can't stay here for 2 weeks. And my husband was like, this place is great. I want to spend a year here. Here? Yeah. And I was like, okay, great. Well, let's make that happen. And about, I don't know, 12 hours later, he said, what I said about coming back here, I can't, because I can never, ever get out of my job. And so I said, well, let's just see what happens. So we had a great trip. We did stay there for 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever, and it felt wonderful. And I was really happy to see him in a more relaxed environment. Like, we had only known each other in Manhattan. And we got back to Manhattan, and I think for the first time we had traveled a lot together, and we kind of always played a game of like, would you want to live here everywhere we had traveled? And it felt like most of the places that we had traveled, after a couple of days, it was like, nah, I wouldn't want to live here. I mean, it's great for a vacation, but there's not enough to make me want to be here. And after Manhattan, where's enough? Like, it's a tough putt. And so when he said that he was interested in this tiny little island that literally has nothing on it, I was like, I am very curious about how that is going to shake down. Mm-hmm. And we were living a very quintessential New York life. Like, we went to shows on the weekend, and our kid was like, because of my husband's job, we flew on private jets, and she sat in Donna Summer's lap and had Donna Summer sing in her ear. I mean, it was just like all these super surreal experiences. And it was great. It was like we had an amazing experience. And it was so intense and so demanding. And I loved my practice, but it just took a lot out of me. And it didn't leave me with, I felt like, enough to be fully present for our daughter to the degree that I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And I think that my husband would say the same for him. So anyway, we got back to New York, and within 2 weeks, he was fired for 20 minutes. And in those 20 minutes, he was like, yes. And he walked over to my office and banged on the door and said, we can go. And I was like, great, this is fantastic. And that was in August. And we went in November to see if we still liked it out of season. And we did. We moved in January, and I started practicing like 2 days after we got there. First out of the house, and then I got an office, and And we were there, we ended up staying for 9 years. And I had a beautiful little practice. All of this to say that I went from Manhattan, a city of, well, not, so a city of millions. I don't remember how many people exactly live in Manhattan, to an island of 8,000.
Mhm.
And it was a completely different reality. There was no disposable income except for 2 months a year when we had tourism. People were extremely, it was not a wellness based culture. They were farmers and they wanted to get back to work because they didn't have the luxury of sitting at home. So where my practice in Manhattan was totally wellness based, my practice in Pamphylia was like, I need to get back to work. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And to go from that one extreme to the other was really challenging for me. And in Manhattan, I was working with young, healthy people. And in Pamphylia, I was working with people who were mostly over 60, many of them very unwell. And it developed a completely different aspect of my practice. And it never occurred to me that I would set up a functional practice there. But when you're a chiropractor, you really can go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of knew that the school system would be our limiting factor for our longevity on the island. And our daughter decided that she wanted to do middle school on the island and then go to high school farther, well, somewhere where there was a more challenging school system. And so that's why we moved to Venice, was for her to be able to go to school.
Got it.
And,
So if you're a chiropractor, you can really decide the type of path that you want to create. Amy worked as a chiropractor in Manhattan and then decided, hey, I want to switch it up. Even though I have a well-established practice, I want to go live in Italy with my family. I want to pursue a different type of life. And she was able to pick up and within 2 days continue serving after she landed in this brand new place. And I think that's an amazing quality that you have in your hands, in your heart.
yeah,
As a
absolutely.
chiropractor, you can travel anywhere in the world and start your practice within the first week of being there, within the
Sure.
first day. Right when you get
Yeah.
there and you start meeting people,
Sure.
that's where you start your practice. So as a chiropractic student today, whether you are in Europe, whether you're in the United States, Canada, no matter where you go to school or where you're from, recognize you can live anywhere in the world. So if you're into traveling, if you're into exploring, if you're into an adventure, realize that possibility is there for you as a chiropractor. Can you speak about your involvement with Barcelona Chiropractic College? What are you teaching the students? What are the topics that you like to really dive into?
Sure. So my association with BCC, as well as all of the other chiropractic colleges in Europe, is tangential in that I teach seminars in biogeometric integration. And I've been teaching, well, I taught with the founder for years before she died. And then over the last 5 years, I've been teaching with my teaching partner. And we teach all over Europe. And in the beginning, it felt like we tended to focus on places where there were chiropractic colleges. That has morphed in some ways, but BCC is one of the places that I love going back to, and it's easy for me because we have a really good support system. And I was recently asked to be part of their virtual Lyceum, which is happening in November, and they've got a great lineup of speakers. And BCC is one of those places where they've done a really nice job of I feel like they keep the students pretty happy. And it's different in different colleges. Every college has its ebbs and flows and ups and downs and big classes and small classes, changes in faculty and staff, in location. I mean, there's just so many factors that go into running a college that students often aren't particularly tuned into, nor is it their business. But the sort of disruption can be reflective in a student experience. And BCC's done a great job in the last I would say it's about 5 years where they've really had a big kind of recovery. They lost their accreditation for a little while and they've gotten it back, and they are really committed to student experience. And this Lyceum they've done a great thing where they've reached out to chiropractors all over the world to speak online, and the students are going to be together while the presentations are being delivered, and then the students are doing skits, and the students are doing contests, and the students are doing other stuff that keeps them and their social connection very tight, versus the people who are speaking. We can be anywhere, and I think they're really doing a great job of figuring out how to blend that technology with humanity, which isn't easy.
So for prospective students who have never heard of BGI, can you give them a brief overview of what BGI is and how it evolved from Sue's initial idea of it to where it is today, and how it's being sort of offered to students?
Biogeometric integration is work that was developed by Sue Brown, and she was an amazing chiropractor who also started out as a massage therapist. Not that that is in any way mandatory, but it's just interesting. And it is an approach that combines light touches along with the traditional osseous chiropractic adjustments. And what I love the most about it, and what really spoke to me when I was in chiropractic college, is that it answered a lot of the questions that were kind of hanging out in terms of chiropractic philosophy to me. And Sue did a beautiful job of blending quantum understanding of the science that is current, and blending excuse me, blending that in with chiropractic philosophy. And I feel like for me, it just felt like there was a lot of chiropractic philosophy that I was really interested in, but it didn't fully feel congruent with what I knew or thought I knew. And when I heard Sue speak, it would just, like, all of these puzzle pieces just started fitting together. And I was like, this is it. This is my chiropractic person.
So if you're a prospective student out there, what I would like you to know about BGI is that it's a construct. It's not a technique. It's a path of logic to approach the human, approach the body with a set of systems or a set of parameters that you're checking for. You're checking the muscles, you're checking the tone of the bone, you're checking the meningeal tension, and you're seeing the subluxation beyond just the spine. You're seeing subluxation patterns, subluxation tracks, ways to really see connections between the shoulder and the hip, ways to see connections between the foot and the neck. So I really appreciate BGI because you're looking at, before you introduce a force into a human being, really setting up and establishing continuity with a human so that when they receive the force, that it is allowed to create the most impact on the system with the least amount of force. And the way that Sue created understanding of there being different triangles, both on the front side, the back side, and through the body. Just understanding the geometry of the body is really helpful for somebody who needs to understand and approach the body from a linear but also non-linear standpoint, looking at relationships. And I just wanted you to know that about BGI, because I think that it's a really great supplement for your training in chiropractic school, and it helps you really place these different techniques into a context for yourself on how you approach the body. So can we just wrap up by you just sharing a little bit on, if you're a prospective student, why should you consider becoming a chiropractor? Reflect back on really what's been rewarding for you these several past years as a chiropractor, and what you really love about it, and also maybe why somebody should consider doing something else besides chiropractic.
I feel like every time I'm around chiropractors, I'm like, these people are crazy. We love what we do so much. And I don't know of another profession where people would be willing to spend almost every weekend at seminars to be around other chiropractors to talk about chiropractic, to talk about how they run the office, to talk about how they can do things better, to learn new stuff. I mean, I'm constantly blown away by people that come to my seminars who already have totally amazing practices. They don't need to learn more. And they're thirsty. They love it. And that's one of the things that I love the most about our profession is we're just in this constant state. It's not necessarily like seekers where they never really find, but it's the companionship, it's the dedication to the principles and the profession. It's really an amazing group of people, and I feel so incredibly lucky. When I get up in the morning and I know I have a full day at the office, it's like, sweet, now let's see what's going to happen. And I never know what's going to happen during the course of the day, except that I know that people tell me every day how their lives have changed through meeting me. And it's not me, it's me being a chiropractor. And it's just an extraordinary avenue to be able to serve people in their growth and evolution. And it's so much more than back pain. It's so much more than headaches. It's so much more than whiplash and injury. If those are things that are interesting to you, fantastic. But it really has very little to do with chiropractic. You can do all of those things as a PT if you want. You can do those things as an orthopedist. You can do those things as an occupational therapist. It took me a long time to understand that the true ideas of chiropractic are not therapeutic. That it's not about fixing somebody. It's about seeing somebody in their perfection and helping them not only see that, but feel that in their physical being. And I connect with people on a regular basis that I took care of 20 years ago. And I am still part of their life because of the relationship that we created 20 years ago. And that to me is extraordinary. I don't know if there are other, I'm sure that there are. I just don't know what other jobs you can do that in. And I just feel really, really, really lucky that I was able to use the hands. And it's definitely a consuming profession. So if you're looking kind of for like a part-time job, it might not be the ideal for that.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing today, Amy.
Absolutely.
Have a great day, beautiful day. Thank you for sharing with the students. I appreciate your time. And until we meet again, take care of
Great.
yourself.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay?
Thanks for reaching out.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.